There's one team who has a lot to prove this season, and that is the Penn State Nittany Lions. Let's talk about their 2024 season and what they're working with heading into the 2025 season. So, 2024 lost to Ohio State 2013. James Franklin and Penn State have not beaten Ohio State since the blocked field goal run back at the last minute of the game to beat Ohio State 2016. Franklin got a lot of heat for this loss to Ohio State. Even had a fan interaction. A lot of fans were chanting "Fire James Franklin." Um, then there was somewhat of redemption. They got into the Big Ten title game because Ohio State lost to Michigan, but they lost to Oregon in the Big Ten title game. Just like, okay, another typical James Franklin loss. Goes up against a team with a bit of a pulse and loses. It was a number one team in the nation, Oregon. They make playoffs, beat SMU and Boise State. Surprise, surprise. Not even that, but convincingly. But lost to top five Notre Dame due to a last minute blunder. Typical Penn State James Franklin loss. But after the game, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, and Drew Aller all announced they're coming back. A lot of the upperclassmen are coming back. And then they make this big splash hire. They convince Jim Knowles to leave Ohio State, become the next defensive coordinator for Nittany Lions. Not only that, they make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in all of college football. And he will be replacing Tom Allen, who left to become the defensive coordinator at Clemson. So, with that being said, it's Natty or bust for Penn State. I mean, Drew Aller's returning 3,327 yards, 24 touchdowns, eight interceptions, and 77.5 QBR. Now, what happened in that last minute blunder? I mean, I don't want to bash the kid. At the end of the day, James Franklin, makes the decisions. Didn't want to play for overtime, so I mean that was the right move. I mean, rely on your backs to get a couple first downs, see if you can get into field goal range, or just go to overtime. Put a lot of pressure on Aller and terribly. That's on James Franklin. So hopefully, Aller does have some room to improve. So we'll see what happens with that. Katron Allen, 220 carries, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 yards per carry. Nick Singleton, 172 carries, 1,099 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6.4 yards per carry. Now, you're returning possibly, actually, no, not possibly, the best backfield in all of college football. This has Quishon Junkins, Traven Henderson 2.0 field. Could be better, but only time will tell. But that's a lot of production returning the backfield. Going to be the best in the country. Wide receiver room. Big question mark there. Tyler Warren, who's heading the NFL, had more catches at 104 for the season than the entire wide receiver room. Man, their two starters transferred out. They're adding former USC receiver Kyron Hudson and Troy wide receiver Devontae Ross. Hudson, when he's at USC, had 38 receptions, 3 touchdowns. And Ross, when he was at Troy, 76 receptions, 1,043 yards, and 11 touchdowns. They need to establish that dominant wide receiver. Now, I'm not really worried at for tight end for Penn State. Shouldn't have to worry about that. They've always had elite tight end play. Seems like year after year, and so I guarantee you that tradition will continue. Now, let's look at the defense side of the ball. Abdul Carter, he's going to the NFL. He had for the 2024 season 43 solo tackles, 12 sacks. That's a lot of production to replace on the defensive side of the ball off the edge. But You know what? I'm surprised that Penn State is not really in the conversation for edge rush U because it just seems like they always have someone to replace that edge rusher. I mean, Chop Robinson got replaced by Abdul Carter. Now Abdul Carter seems like he's going to be replaced by Danny Dennis Sutton, who also made the announcement he's going to return for his senior season. What does he bring from the 2024 season? Uh, 24 solo tackles, 8.5 sacks. Seems like, he's gonna be playing at an Abdul Carter, Chopper Robinson level. So, but again, you never know in a Jim Knowles defense. Um, so Zo- Zane Durant also returning for senior season. Um, 22 solo tackles, 3 sacks. Linebackers returning 2 out of 3 starters. Secondary. Now that's going to be the biggest change on their defense. One transferred, 2 declared for NFL. Zion Tracy's returning, 30 solo tackles, 2 interceptions. AJ Harris is returning, 28 solo tackles, 1 interception. Elliot Washington, 18 solo, 1 interception. Uh, Not really worried about the defense. Seems like they always play at an elite level year after year, have a top 10 defense. And they were able to hire away Jim Knowles, make him the highest paid defense coordinator in all of college football. Now, what will this Penn State defense look like under a new scheme? Because soon as Jim Knowles came to Ohio State, it seems like the full force of his defense really worked out. I mean, end of year 2, middle of year 3, and especially during the playoffs. But it just seems like year after year. I mean, Manny Diaz, then they plug in Tom Allen. Now they have Jim Knowles, who's a top defense coordinator. So I think they'll be fine on the defensive side of the ball. It's really that it's really that offense, especially when they play Ohio State. 13 points, and the year before that, I think they got like 10. So they're gonna have to. The defensive side of the ball is not the problem. They're gonna have to find ways when they get in those tight games, just be able to score more points. That- that's pretty much it. But again, the way their season ended, their top 3 players are coming back for one last season, and with the addition of Jim Knowles, it's definitely Natty or bust. This has like an Ohio State esque type thing going on. Ohio, like especially like Michigan, it has the title unfinished business on this season. A lot of Michigan starters came back for one more season. They all could have declared for the NFL. A good amount of them could have declared for the NFL. They came back, won the national championship. Same as Ohio State, unfinished business. Had a lot of players, especially on the defense side of the ball and offense side of the ball, could have declared for the draft. Came back for one last season. Added a good amount of transfer portal additions. Unfinished business. Won the national championship. Penn State, the same thing. Unfinished business, a lot to prove, but this team will only go as far as James Franklin takes them. Now he's made a lot of questionable decisions at head coach, and don't even get me started on his top 5, top 10 record. I'll do another video on that, but it's not really good. Let's just say his last top 5 win was against Ohio State in 2016. Other than that, I mean, he makes a lot of questionable calls when it comes down to the big games. He can't win the big game. But again, I'll do another video on that. But other than that, I'm not looking for. I mean, the big test will be when they play Oregon, when they play Ohio State. You'll see what type of playoff run, or if anything, will get going. But if they don't have an undefeated season, that's not the deal breaker. If they don't win the Big Ten, that's not the deal breaker. Like it seems like Penn State's all in, all the marbles are on the table. Looks like they're winning the Natty. Anything less than that is a failure for this team.